writers. We've now completed all of the beginning parts of the story, and now it's time to look at the middle part of the story. That's here on this yellow card. On this card, it talks about it getting a bit cooler at the water. It talks about dark clouds in the distance. Uh-oh. It also talks about, oh, we better start getting going, and the kids not wanting to leave because, of course, they're having so much fun doing things like playing Red Rover. But we did have to go. And I'm thinking, how do we start that in the story? How do we do that next part? I'd like a fun word to transition us to that next part. And I'm thinking, because this is the exciting part of the story, that a word like suddenly would help us think, oh, we better pay attention. Something exciting is happening. What do you think about suddenly? Okay, let's try it. Let's clap out the word suddenly. Suddenly. There are 3 syllables in suddenly. There's a lot more sounds than that, though. Here are the sounds that I hear in the word suddenly. Let's go syllable by syllable. And we're going to write it right here at the beginning of my story. Let's go. Okay, let's do the first syllable of suddenly. It's sud. S-d. Think about the letters you know that would match those sounds. S-d. Did you figure it out? I'm going to put the letter S at the beginning. And it needs to be uppercase S because this is the beginning of a sentence. S-d. That's my first syllable. Sud. The next syllable, den. D-e-n. Den. Let's do those sounds and write the second part of the syllable. D-e-n. Suddenly. There are 2 sounds. U-e. The U is with letter L. And then the E sound is actually made by letter Y here. Suddenly, I'm now going to add a comma. Hopefully you're feeling a bit of suspense. Suddenly, I felt a bit chilly and noticed dark clouds in the distance. That's what I'm going to write next for this part. I'm going to put a finger space. I felt a bit. Suddenly, I felt a bit, remember what word I used? Chilly, because it was starting to get cold, right? The wind's picking up. We're going to have a storm. Ch. That's CH that says the ch sound. Ch. Ill. Guess what? The E is spelled by Y again in that word. Suddenly, I felt a bit chilly and noticed dark clouds in the distance. I'll finish up my sentence. You can be thinking about writing yours where you are. Let's reread the whole thing and think about what punctuation we'll put at the end. Suddenly, I felt a bit chilly. And I noticed dark clouds in the distance meaning they're off a little bit far away. I'm just telling you something, so it would be best to put at the end of that a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. Yes, a period for telling things. Hey there, writers. We're going to talk about something called dialogue. Can you say dialogue? Great. When we're talking about dialogue, that means people are talking, having a conversation together, talking back and forth. Whenever we are writing a story, we're thinking about the characters in our story when we're writing a narrative story. And sometimes it might be really important to have the characters talk to each other. So we might want to add dialogue into the story that we're writing. Today I'd like to show you how you can do that. First of all, besides the word dialogue, I'd like to teach you another set of words that are going to go together. It is quotation marks. Can you say quotation marks? Nice job. That's a big word. Quotation. Quotation. It makes me think of quote. A quote is something that someone would say, the words that come out of someone's mouth. In writing, we use quotation marks to help us know when someone's talking. Here's what they look like. Sometimes people call them talking marks. They hold in the words that someone would be talking. For instance, right here, this says hi. The word hi is between a set of quotation marks, meaning that someone is speaking those words. So we're going to take a look at the writing that I did on my story, and I want you to be on the lookout for, you got it, quotation marks. Let's do some reading. Here in the middle part of my story, and look for quotation marks that tell us there's some dialogue happening. So let's take a look at the middle part of my story, and remember, you're going to be listening for me to read some parts that have dialogue, where people are talking, and you can also be looking for those quotation marks to help you know. Here we go. Suddenly, I felt a bit chilly, and I noticed dark clouds in the distance. I turned to Matt. Whoa, look at the clouds that rolled in, I said. Did you notice something there? Look, there's some quotation marks. Who was saying that? Let's see what the words were that somebody said. Whoa, look at the clouds that rolled in. That's the part that's a quotation. And then it says, I said, who would I be in that story? Yeah, that's me saying that. And I'm saying it to Matt. Kids, look, more quotation marks. Kids, we need to get going. Now, a storm is coming, said Matt. Who did the second set of the talking? Yes, Matt said that. This is our dialogue back and forth. Let's keep reading. Do we have to? Logan and Amelia said together. Did you find some quotation marks? Yeah, right here. Do we have to? Those are the words that are in quotation marks. Those are the words that who said. Yeah, Logan and Amelia said those words. So they said, do we have to? Logan and Amelia said together. Yes, Matt and I shouted as we headed out of the water. What did Matt and I respond back to Logan and Amelia? What word did we both say? You got it. Yes, and we said that. That's our quotation, and 2 exclamation points and all uppercase letters I put to say we said it like we really meant it. So that's this next part of my story. That was right here, that yellow part, where we noticed it getting cooler and we thought we better get going. Now it's time to hear what happens once we decided we better get moving fast. Okay, so here we are. This is the orange part of our story on the story map where we're going to get toward the end and be able to wrap up our story. This is the part where all the excitement is happening with wind blowing and sand blowing. Other people are still just hanging out at the beach, but we start running. There's like pine needles stabbing our legs and beach floats passing by. I want to try and get all the ideas I put on my story map into this next part. I worked really hard to try and include as much as I could without doing too much. So I'm going to read the rest of the story to you all the way from the end of the middle part to the very end of the story, where we finally make it to safety. Are you ready? Let's read it. Other people continued to swim and play. We ran back to pack up. We tossed goggles in the beach bag, wrapped towels around us, and put flip-flops on. Sand was blowing all around. Pine needles were flying and poking our arms and legs. Wind was whipping our faces, and my hair was blocking my eyes. We ran. Can you picture what's happening in the story? How it's really windy and crazy? That's this part, and now we're going to get into the next part where we finish up. Here we go. It was getting darker. The other beachgoers started to pack up and run too. There was a lot of yelling, laughing, and screaming. Can you almost hear it? We kept running. All of a sudden, a huge popcorn float went flying by us. A woman was chasing after it. Logan ducked behind a car. Finally, that gives me a hint that we're getting to the last part of our story. Finally, we made it to the car. Matt buckled Amelia in. I ran to get Logan. We threw things in the back. We made it. We took a deep breath. Then we all laughed at how crazy we looked, covered in pine needles and sand. What a wild day. Well, writers, this process has taken us quite a while. We had to think of a story to be able to write a narrative when the daytime or nighttime sky was important to the story. Mine was a daytime story, right? Where all of a sudden I wasn't paying attention enough to the weather and we got caught almost in a big storm. So we did our story map. We figured out what our title would be and we wrote our characters and setting. We wrote what our goal was, the problem, and then we wrote down everything that happened first, then, next, and finally, to get to the resolution of our story where we could finally be safe inside. I'm going to do one more read myself to see if there's anything else that I need to add or take out. But what's really exciting is that Miss Rogers is going to be the audience. She's going to read the story and give me some feedback. I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to see what she says. Then I can put on my finishing touches to my story and get the final draft of my story done. Before we wrap up, I did want to show you one thing. I got some help from my daughter. She did an illustration of this last part of the story. I thought it was great that she was able to really show we're holding hands, there's sand flying, you can see the wind whipping, and there's that popcorn float, and there's Logan hiding behind a car. When you're doing your story, remember, sometimes it's okay if you want to start with the drawing, and then you can add words later. Illustrations are really important to the stories that we write. Thanks for all your help with this. Have a great rest of the day, and keep on writing.
This program is made possible in part by the Michigan Department of Education, the State of Michigan, and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. Additional support by viewers like you. Thank you.